and db equals to default. So if they would have done this, Cloudflare would not have went into failure that day. So this particular rush code goes into failure and created. Hello everyone. So today we will learn about recent Cloudflare outage on 18 November 2025. Like recently we also had AWS outage and now the Cloudflare outage. Like on that day we were getting this particular error on the pages if you access any of the above services. Like there was so many dependent services on Cloudflare were down because Cloudflare accounts for 15 to 20% of internet https traffic, and regardless of the service, some part of the internal service is dependent on Cloudflare for the major services like ChatGPT, Twitter, Coinbase, Canva, Uber, Quora, Spotify, whatnot. And there are numerous services other than these services that were down. So today we will understand what was the major cause behind this. Any request to a Cloudflare customer like Quora or Uber goes through this particular process before reaching to the customer. Suppose a user make a request, that request land on Cloudflare HTTP TLS termination. After that, it goes into something called Frontline. Like this particular part here is called Cloudflare Frontline. So Frontline does numerous of checks to that particular request. Suppose web application firewall, rate limiting, bot checking, and many other services. The primary motive of the Frontline is to check whether the request is a legitimate request that can be sent to the client, or that request should be blocked, because on the internet there are numerous of bots which always try to take data from the customer website. Suppose customer website have various forms of art gallery, and some scraper scrapes the internet and fetch various arts and train its machine learning model. But the Cloudflare customer don't want his arts to be scraped by a scraper or a bot. So Cloudflare checks for these kind of requests and does filtration on its end so that that request cannot reach the customer. After that particular request is tested with web application firewalls, tested for bots, and rate limiting logic are applied, that request land on the cache, which is known as Pingora. And after that, that request goes to customer. So this is kind of a normal day flow which happens between a user, Cloudflare, and Cloudflare customer. So what actually had happened on the day of the issue? On the day of the issue, we had received an error in the bots section of the Frontline. So like this is the main core proxy of the Cloudflare, and this works in the less than in the milliseconds of time, and made these following checks. And on the day of the issue, the bots check was failing again and again. Due to the Cloudflare issue, these particular services were impacted. The Cloudflare Core CDN, which provide for the static data to all the internet, Cloudflare Access, which is a authentication service, Cloudflare Key Value Stores, Workers KV, Cloudflare Turnstile. Like whenever you visit some website, you must have seen this particular kind of CAPTCHA check. Like on that particular website, you don't have to enter any CAPTCHA, and it does some verification and let you pass to the particular website. This particular check is called a Cloudflare Turnstile, and it was applied to block the bots and let legitimate users like us to pass through and access the Cloudflare client website. Basically, you make a website here. Suppose this is your website. You have various proprietary content here. Make Cloudflare turnstile on in between, and the user can get verified from turnstile and access your website. Although a bot can access your website, and turnstile will not allow that bot to pass through. Also, Cloudflare dashboard, which is an internal dashboard service, gets impacted, and the major service called bot management, which was the major source of the error on that day, was impacted. So let us understand what exactly is the bot management service of Cloudflare. Cloudflare monitors and saves millions on millions, like 13 million approximately, bot behavior data from all of the internet. Like, Cloudflare service is used by various customers, so Cloudflare checks various bots behavior patterns, which changes every day, every hour, to monitor what kind of bots are accessing different websites. So it takes ever changing bot behavior data from all over the internet. So what exactly it does with that data? Cloudflare prepares a machine learning model with that internet data of bot patterns, and that machine learning model lets legitimate users like us to pass through the Cloudflare Frontline check. And that particular model blocks the bots based on scores calculated by model. As you can see, the bots have very low score like 10, 17, and legitimate users have scores like 91, 99, and so on. So that particular machine learning models blocks the request from bots and let legitimate users pass through. On the day of the issue, the calculated score of that model becomes 0, also for the legitimate users. So even when the legitimate users were trying to access Cloudflare client website, those the scores for that particular users were also wrongly calculated as 0. Why that was being done? Because the bot management service was failed. So let's study why that bot management service got failed. So let's study the core issue for the failure of bot management service. As you can see here, we have one query. So the feature vectors of the HTTP request for the bot behavior are stored inside the ClickHouseDB. ClickHouseDB is a distributed database, and before before the issue, only the default DB was visible. So what the developers in the Cloudflare did, they have provided the explicit grant, because like before, in the default DB, the metadata of default DB were already implicitly visible to the users. So what they did, okay, if the data is implicitly visible, let's make the metadata access explicit. So they made the metadata access explicit without knowing that in their bot management system feature request creation service, there is this particular query which takes all the data from system.columns and provides a check for the HTTP request features without taking into account there is no check for the DB. Like before the grant, only access was done through default DB, but after the grant, not only default database contents but all the database contents becomes visible by that query. So this HTTP request features not only from the default DB but also from the other databases gets populated into the answer. Like for the fakes, after applying explicit grant, they had to make the query like where table is equal to this and db equals to default. So if they would have done this, Cloudflare would not have went into failure that day. So this particular query has created unnecessary duplicates of this HTTP request features vectors. So after that particular feature vector file is created, on the usual normal day, good file has only around 60 features. But on the day of the Cloudflare issue, bad file has got 200 features, basically duplicate features from the other database apart from default database in ClickHouseDB. So as you can see here, feature 1 is duplicated, feature 2 is duplicated, and it was a very large file as compared to normal day. So the microservices within the bot management software use various kinds of codes. So there was one Rust code which has a particular set of memory allotted. Like each module in the proxy of the frontline part of the core proxy of the Cloudflare model has limits, like limit on memory. So for that particular set of limit, only 60 features were allowed to process by this particular code. But on the issue day, 200 features came as input, and so the memory was not uh, suitable for this 200 features. So this particular Rust code goes into failure and created a panic. And also this particular exception was not handled. Like maybe if they would have checked if exception has happened due to large memory usage, they would have double the memory usage and run the process again. Like this particular core proxy system has very low latency. It works on the front of the website and the user access that website. So this particular microservices here need to compute the result whether a particular service is a bot or whether that particular rate is limited in very low amount of time. So all the extra work like exception handling, trying with to cross the memory, that was not done, with the assumption that okay, if one request vector may exceed and make this Rust code fail, only few 5xs error may happen. But on that day, lots of 5xs error were happening because due to failure of this particular Rust code, because of 200 feature vector file, lots of the requests were getting bot score of 0, and due to bot score of 0, those requests were unable to access the client servers of the Cloudflare. So this was all regarding the Cloudflare issue. If you have any other doubt, please comment down below. Also, I have attached in the description the official statement of the Cloudflare regarding the issue. Do check that out also. And at last, please give like to this video if you have learned something new, and share this video among your friends. So thank you.